Welcome back, students, to the next session of second chapter, which is collection of data. In the previous session we had discussed what is a data, why do we need it, why do we collect it, what is the primary data, what is the secondary data, and then we went on to understand the methods through which we can collect the primary data. Now I had discussed the first method in the previous session. हमने first method किया था, which was direct personal investigation. This we have already done in the part 1 of this chapter. Now this is part 2, and here I will be discussing the rest of the methods. Now the second method is indirect oral investigation. Like I told you, what is the difference between direct and indirect here? The similarity first. The similarity is in both the cases the primary data is being collected. That means the data is being collected according to the motive of the investigator, according to the objective of the investigator. Investigator knows better how he wants the data to be collected. But in direct case, he is now personally contacting them. He is talking to them. So there is flexibility over there. Area of study is small. That means the number of people to be studied are less, which is why it is feasible for the investigator to personally go and visit them. But in indirect case, in this case the area is large, or it is difficult for the investigator to fetch the information. Okay. Now when the area is large, like I gave you an example of school data. If data is, if I require your data, if I need the data of your marks in the previous exam, like midterm exam, so I am the investigator and I can directly connect with you because you're a class of 40 students, so it is possible for me to take information from you. But what if somebody in the admin department needs your data? So that would be a data of thousands of children. They cannot personally contact everybody. So in that case they will contact us, who are better equipped with the information, who can get the information for them according to their objective. So in this case the investigator, let's say the admin department of the school, approaches the third party. Who is the third party? I am the third party. The teacher is the third party. You are the first party, you are the respondent. The investigator is the second party, the admin, and I am the third party who is collecting the information. Now the investigator approaches third parties who are in possession of information, like we have the information about the subject of inquiry. Okay, so we have the information about it. There's another example that I can discuss, is that information on smokers in a college. Now in a college, or I can say in colleges, so it's not necessary that the investigator has a good connection with all the people in the college, and not everybody will share their details with you regarding their smoking habits. So it's better that they approach third parties who are in direct connection with these smokers and who can give better information. Okay, so it's not like the investigator is not from that area or does not know them. He knows them, but the smokers may not be comfortable in answering the investigator and is better in answering the third party. And also the area, the reason is why does the investigator need a third party? The area of investigation is large. The area of investigation is large, the population is huge, and the investigator cannot practically go to each and every person. Okay, so now I will be discussing the suitability. Where is it suitable? Of course, like I told you, in wide area it is suitable, and then other things also like merits and demerits. Okay, so now we are discussing indirect oral investigation in detail. I have already introduced this method to you, and I will be specifying the points which you will need for writing an answer. First is suitability. So suitability means where is it suitable, which are the conditions where I would really require indirect oral investigation. So the first condition is that the area of investigation is large. Whenever there's a wide area, a lot of people are to be covered, then indirect serves as a better method. Second is the information is sensitive. So it may not be possible for everybody to have that kind of connect with the investigator, and they may not share their personal information or sensitive information with the investigator. So it's better that the investigator connects with people who can or who have that kind of information, or who can better connect with the respondents. Okay. Then third, need experts opinion. In this case, the third parties, that means the people who are connected with the respondents are kind of experts, and they really understand their people better, so they can also give their opinion on the information that the investigator requires. They can also give suggestions on how to collect the data in a better manner. Then ignorant informant. Ignorant का मतलब होता है a person who is not aware of his surroundings, who is who ignores, right? Who, not purposely, he is just not aware. So he is ignorant, he doesn't know that he's supposed to give any kind of information, or if he is even supposed to give it, he knows it, then also he doesn't know how to give it. So uh, in that case, the oral investigator, not the investigator, but the third party who is in connect with the respondents deals with such informants. Informants here means the respondent only, so the basically terms are different, meaning is the same. Then what are the merits? Of course, first merit is that it helps in covering wide areas. Second, economical, because if one investigator goes and meets everybody, it takes a lot of time and effort, and money also. Time is money. So when he has people who can help him out, it will really help him save the time and effort. So economically, in terms of time, effort, money and everything. देन relatively free from bias. Relatively free का मतलब है, देखो biasness हर method में होगी. I have discussed that in previous method also, shared that kind of information. Biasness in this case may not be there, because the, like I told you, in case of a school, like the teachers who are collecting information from you, they are pretty much professional, and not collecting the information on certain biasness, and they are giving the information as it is to the investigator. So it is relatively free, but still there can be a possibility of a bias from the respondent side also, because the respondent may give an incorrect information. So this will always be a problem in all the kinds of methods. So it's not like if there is a particular demerit or a merit of a particular method, it is there only for that one. It can be applicable to other methods also. So be very open to that kind of vision, that ma'am, how can there be a bias in others? But there will always be a bias, there will always be partiality, there will always be a lot of factors involved which will influence the accuracy of the data. So it's okay, it's just that we need to see that how worse it is, what is the degree of biasness, what is the intensity of the error here. That's what we have to see. And then fourth, expert opinion. Of course, people who are directly in touch with the respondents are kind of experts on that particular subject also. So if you connect with, if you want to frame a policy and you connect with economists, so they are the experts and they will tell you better. So experts opinion also is a merit. Now we come to the demerit. First is indirect information, of course. Now the investigator is not directly taking the information. There is one intermediary or one level added to it, which is the third party. So yes, the information is transferring from A to B to C, not A to B. Okay, sorry, not A to C. Directly A to C नहीं जा रहा है, A to B to C जा रहा है. So in that case, there can be a possibility of loss of information or incorrect information or some of the other error, there's always a problem with that. Then lack of accuracy, because of this method only accuracy it is all relative. So as compared to the direct personal investigation, the accuracy is low here. Lack of interest of the informant. Of course, what if the informant doesn't want to give information? What if he is not interested? So yes, that will always be a problem for the investigator, because there is no obligation on the informant to give the information. Informant is the respondent here, I am repeating. And the last one is lack of uniformity. Why uniformity? Because you are dealing with a lot of people who are then again dealing with a lot of respondents. Every person collecting the information is doing it in their own way, his or her own way. So the method may not be uniform. Of course, they all know that the objective is this, the criteria is this, but their way of collecting the information may differ. Okay, so that's why a lack of uniformity will be there, because of the involvement of a third party, which is B, who is connecting with C. They are the respondents, and then giving the information to A, who is the investigator. Okay, now we move on to the next method. So here is the next method, which is information from correspondence. Correspondence I mean is local correspondence. मैंने starting में भी discuss किया था. It's basically those people who are well aware of their surroundings and can give you better information are local correspondents. Now you will say, what is the difference between indirect oral investigation and correspondence? I mean, in both the cases, the investigator is asking people to fetch information for him. So the difference is that in case of indirect oral investigation, those people are already experts in their subject field, already working on it, and then can help you out. In case of correspondence, you basically hire people and then you train them to get the information for you. So there's a difference. That means the first method, people are already there, they are the experts, they already have the information, and then they can help you with the information. Of course, in collecting it according to your objective. But here you don't have the people already employed. You have to hire them first, you have to then train them, and then they will help you out in collecting the information. So that is the difference. Of course, it is suitable only when it is done on a wide area. Why would I otherwise hire so many people when I have to do it on a small area of investigation? So of course, when the number of people are huge, the area of investigation is huge. In that case only I employ people for collection of information, and also I need those people to be doing it regularly and continuously for me. So regularity and continuity is what I want from them. And also high degree of accuracy is not required. So I am not really concerned if there are errors or mistakes in collection of data. It's fine. I am okay with that. I just want an overview of the information which I can easily get from these people. So I am okay with the accuracy also. So let's come to the merits. The merits is wide coverage. Second, economical, because it is saving a lot of time of the investigator, and continuity. So since the correspondent is giving you a continuous information, like example could be regarding politics, regarding agriculture in a particular area, what are the regular updates, any politics, any happenings, incidents, especially in media it is used. Correspondent, आपने सुना होगा media correspondent, news correspondent. So they are the people who are regularly monitoring an area. They are well trained only for that purpose, and they continuously give you information regarding that area. So that's why continuity. And then the demerits means there's lack of uniformity. Of course आपने बहुत सारे areas हैं, हर area में there's one correspondent each, and every correspondent has his or her own way of collecting the information and giving it to you, so there may not be uniformity in all of them. That will always be their personal bias. Correspondent may be biased towards a particular kind of activity and may not share with you other activities, so there can be personal bias. He may not share all of the information. There can be a possibility of that. Biasness, like I told you, will always be there. Lack of accuracy, yes, it is never 100% sure that whatever information you are getting is 100% true or not, or complete or not. And time consuming, it takes a lot of time for the person to give you the information. Time consuming in the sense that not giving you the information, but in hiring, in training, and then in deploying them to a particular area. So yes, it takes time in that kind of process, but overall it is economical, because if the investigator does it himself, it will take him a lot more time and effort and money. So if you see it relatively, that hiring correspondents is a much better idea to get the information. Okay, now we move on to the next method, which is the telephonic interviews. So here's the next method, which is telephonic interviews. Now in this case, this is a very common method that you must have come across in your life also. Like you receive a call from a particular company and then they ask you for your time, and then they say, can we ask you a few questions? Now if you have time, then you go on to say, okay, ask me. If you don't have time, you say, no, sorry, I don't have time, bye bye. So in this case, why do people resort to telephonic interviews? Number one, they don't have time to meet you personally. Number two, you could be living far away and they still want to connect with you, and telephone is a technology which helps you in that. Number three, when people don't have much time to meet you, you don't have much time to meet them, so telephonic interviews are better. You can solve your query, your doubts and everything through a simple call. So it helps you. It's a simple process by which the interviewee calls the interviewer, and the interviewer calls the interviewee, and then takes answers of all the questions that he has. Now the criteria for a successful collection of data in this method is that the number of questions should be less, they should be simple, and they should not confuse, they should not be complex, right? And they should be able to give you as much information as possible. Like if you have shortlisted 5 questions, make sure those 5 questions are giving you the maximum information possible. The answers to those questions should help you a lot. So that's how you conduct these interviews. So it is suitable when, of course, where is it suitable? When people have telephone connections. In urban areas, most of the people do have. In rural areas, there's still a problem of telephone connectivity with everybody. Second, the less time to collect the data. Like I don't have time to go and visit everybody, so to save myself that time, I would rather call them up. The merit, these merits, I think these are being repeated, so when you will face a question in the paper, I think you'll end up writing these points only. So which is fine, they are repeating themselves, but be very careful also which method you are working on. The merit, first one is wide coverage, helps you in covering a lot of people. Second, economical, saves you labor cost, time, effort, people don't have to go, transportation costs. So yes, economical in that sense. And helps you in clarifying doubts when one-to-one interaction happens. The person who is giving information, the respondent, can easily ask the doubts in this case. Also this case is suitable where the person may not be comfortable in personally sharing their information, they're more comfortable on a telephone, so there also it is suitable and can be applicable. Demerit means what are the disadvantages here. What is the first one is the limited use. That means some people may not have the telephone, like in rural areas. I cannot have a successful round of telephonic interviews, so I will have to personally visit them. So this method may not be feasible in that particular area where people don't have telephone connections. The second demerit is lack of visual feedback. When I'm talking to somebody over the phone, I may not be able to see their expressions or understand whether the information that they are giving is true. Are they being honest? Are they feeling are they satisfied with the questions or not? So I'm not getting that kind of feedback from them. So it is a very, I would say, it is a lack of emotions, a lack of connect with the person if you are on the telephonic interview as compared to the one-on-one interviews. So now we will move on to the next method, which is the questionnaire method. Okay. So this is the next method, which is questionnaire method. In the introduction part, I told you that there are two ways of filling the questionnaire. One is through mail, second is through an enumerator. Now why do we need two methods, two ways of doing the same thing? Is because that mailing is always better, always good, because it saves a lot of time and no money involved, and you can easily reach out to people at far distance also. But what if people don't have a mailing access? What if they're not literate enough or educated enough to get an email for themselves? So in that case, we need an enumerator. Like I told you in the very beginning, an enumerator is a person hired by the investigator who collects the information for the investigator also only. So enumerator in this case will be the person visiting those people who cannot fill up the questionnaire through a mail. They will be, of course, enumerator will be talking to them personally and then fetching information from them. I have already discussed what is a questionnaire. I will discuss that again. I think I forgot to discuss that first. Questionnaire is basically a document in which there are many questions. Now those could be a question of multiple choice question, generally multiple choice, or they could be open-ended question or descriptive questions. There can be any type of questions which help you in getting the information from the people. I will give you an example, like I was working with a mobile company, and they wanted to launch a new brand for themselves, but that brand was basically a low range mobile phone brand. They wanted to know from the market, from a particular area, that whether there would be a demand for these phones or not. So I was assigned a particular area of Delhi. Since it's a low range phone, we don't expect the owners of these phones to have a mailing access. So of course I was the enumerator in that case, and I was supposed to go and collect the data. So I had a lot of questions in my mind, like what is the feature that they look for in a mobile phone. What is the optimum size of the mobile phone they're most comfortable with, and what is the battery life that they want, what is the price range that they are most comfortable with. So these were the kind of questions that I framed, and I had a questionnaire ready with me. Those papers were ready with me. I just went to that area. Of course, I had a whole team with me, and then we personally, asked people, whoever had time to talk to us. We asked them these questions, and then we wrote down the answers. Of course, there will always be discrepancies. That sometimes they don't understand the question, or sometimes they don't answer properly, or sometimes they're just not true. They're just passing their time, or there can be a lot of frictions there, but that's okay. That's a part and parcel of that job. It's just a method of getting the information from people who are your actual targets. So that's the enumerator method of getting your questionnaires filled. In this method, the questionnaires are known as schedules. So the first method I am explaining again, mailed questionnaire method. So investigator makes a questionnaire pertaining to field of investigation and mails it to respondents to collect information from them. Okay. And then a questionnaire filled by enumerators. Enumerator personally visits the informants along with questionnaire, asks questions and notes down the replies. Okay. So in case you still have a doubt, questionnaire basically is a list of questions based on your field of study, based on what you want to know. Like I told you, the objective was to know whether there will be a demand of this particular phone or not. So based on that objective, I framed a question, a lot of questions. So that those questions together are known as a questionnaire. Okay. So now we will discuss mailed questionnaire method in detail. This is the detailed version of mailed questionnaire method. In this case, the person, the investigator, frames the questionnaire and mails it to the respondents. First of all, where is it suitable? Where the field of investigation is large. So it can easily cater to a large population, because you can easily mail all of them. Then second most important is only when the population is literate, educated enough to have a mail account. Okay. And also they should be cooperative, that they are answering to your mails, they are actually filling up the questionnaire. Merits: wide coverage, helps in covering a wide area. Economical, of course no cost involved because you don't have to go out and meet anybody. Original, gets you first hand data because the respondent is directly giving you the data, so that is the original one. Free from bias, there cannot be any bias because the data is exactly what the respondent is telling you. And maintains secrecy because yes, it cannot be leaked out, or the respondent is also very sure that the information that he is sending to you will remain with you only. Of course, there is a confidential clause that you will have to be declaring in the initial stage. Then the demerits: limited scope. Why? Because not everybody has a mail account, so only those with the mailing access can actually share their information. So the other people who don't have mail accounts, we have to switch over to the second method, which is the enumerators method. Then accuracy cannot be tested. See, I told you, like, the data is original. Of course it is, you're getting the first hand data, the respondent is giving it directly to you, but it may not be accurate and you cannot test it whether the the respondent is giving you the right data or not, right information or not. He may be lying, I cannot test it. Then lack of interest: people may not be interested in responding to the mail, so they can be uncooperative, or they just don't have the time, or they're just not interested. So that can be biggest demerit. You cannot practically force people to answer you. You're not talking to them directly, you just have mailed them, so now it is up to them. And chances of misinterpretation, that means misinterpretation nahi hai ye, it's more like misunderstanding. That means the respondents may not understand what question you have given them. So that's a major criteria of framing the questionnaire. We will also learn how to frame a questionnaire. That's a major, very big criteria, that your question should be simple and the respondent should be able to understand that question. So there can be chances of misunderstanding, and that's why it is said misinterpretation. So the respondent may interpret in a very different way, and then he will answer it accordingly, and the answer may not be exactly what you want. So there can be a problem there. Okay. Next we move on to the enumerators method. So this is the last method of collecting primary data. In this case, we are getting the questionnaires filled by the enumerator. Basically, the enumerator is filling the questionnaire and taking information from the respondents. In this case, like I have told you multiple times, the questionnaire is known as a schedule. Okay, so be very vigilant of that there is a difference of schedule in this case. I mean, why questionnaire is known differently here. Now, where is it suitable? Suitability, number one, the enumerators need to be trained. They need to be hardworking. They need to be very diligent in their work. They need to be well trained, well equipped with the knowledge, with the skills to be able to interact with people and to fetch information from them. This is very important. So it is this method is feasible only where the enumerators are trained. Enumerators are the people who are talking to the respondents and collecting information from them, because the respondents cannot fill the questionnaire through the mail. Then also, second, you need to have a lot of money. Why? Because you need to pay the enumerators. So I need to have money for that. So this is feasible only when you have finance with you. Third is wide area. You can easily cover wide areas in this case, because you can hire enumerators and give each area to everybody. And fourth is high accuracy. Of course, when your enumerator is trained, he will get better data quality as compared to any other method. What are the merits? Again, first, wide coverage. Second, accuracy is there because the enumerators are well trained. Third one, better response. This is as compared to the questionnaire. Okay, so of course these two are as compared to the questionnaire. Accuracy is also better because now the enumerator is also visually watching the feedback. Talking face to face will always give you a better response as compared to talking through a mail. So better response and accuracy is there. And also the purpose why we had this method was to deal with the illiterates. So this method is useful in case of illiterates here. Then the demerits. Demerits, I told you, you need money, so it is costly and time consuming. Time consuming in the whole process. First you have to hire the enumerators, then you have to train them, then you have to deploy them, then they'll collect the information. So it all takes a lot of time. So that's why it's time consuming. Biasness can be there. Enumerator may be partial, may not collect certain information, or may collect it incorrectly. He could be incompetent, he could be unable to get the right information. So enumerator may not be well trained. Maybe you gave the training, but he did not get it right, so he will not be able to get you the right information. So these are the suitability, merits and demerits of enumerator method. आज के लिए बहुत हुआ. अब हम नेक्स्ट क्लास में आगे की टॉपिक्स पढ़ेंगे, which is we'll discuss what is a questionnaire, we'll discuss how to frame. We already know what is a questionnaire. We'll discuss how to make a questionnaire, and we'll also discuss what are pilot surveys, exit surveys. So bye for now and take care everyone.